Most businesses and entrepreneurs aren't thinking about backup plans. What we're going to talk about today is contingency plans for your contingency plan and how we look at those to make sure that our businesses can continue when things go sideways. Madeline, today we're going to go a little retro, kind of like the outfit with the suspenders you're wearing today.
I love this. Are you kidding me? This is where I feel the most comfortable, wearing something that most people wouldn't dare.
Well, you look great.
Thank you.
But really what we're going to talk about today is when your contingency plan doesn't work and it's time to go old school.
Ooh.
So recently, many in our audience might know about this, but a lot of softwares that are in the cloud run on Cloudflare.
Mm-hmm.
And Cloudflare went down.
It did.
And we had a contingency plan for our scheduling system, and it was another software. Mm-hmm. And the question I never asked myself was, hey, I wonder what that one runs on. Because guess what?
Huh?
It ran on Cloudflare too.
Oh.
So because we had some knowledge of 15, 20 years ago, knew how to operate, and thank goodness that we knew how to go old school. Mm-hmm. And we went to a point that we actually do a backup of our scheduling system every day, at the end of every day. And so we have every one of our clients, every one of the agents that we use, every one of the consumer, and we have it all in one big, beautiful spreadsheet for the whole month. So we were able to communicate because it didn't go down just for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. It went down for like 7 hours, business hours. Not to count the hours that it was down from midnight when they always do their updates, right? And I'm not sure why they couldn't convert it back, but the point is that I think all entrepreneurs need to understand that no matter what it is, you need to ask yourself the most important question. What do you do if things don't work exactly the way you originally planned them from a technology perspective? Mm-hmm. How do you do business?
Your contingency plan?
Yeah, what say you?
Well, I mean, what's interesting about what you're saying is that when we started manually. So we forgot apparently some of those steps, and that's the trap, right? We get so comfortable being so digitalized that we just forget about what is it that we need to be doing to keep our business and providing the level of services that we need without a hitch. And I just don't understand why, as business owners, why have we forgotten that piece? And I think we need to really revisit, as business owners, the contingency plan. When we audit our business, can we be functional without any systems that are in the digital world? And I think it's important for people to take a step back and take a look at their business. If they are serious about their business and the way they service their clients, how do we take a look at our business and put a manual process in place in the event that something like the Cloudflare goes out? Right.
And it didn't that's not the first time something like that has happened to us. That's why we were a little bit more prepared than many. But, even people think about, we're so used to just sending an email, right? Oh, I'll just email that person. And people stop making phone calls, right? Or, what happens if your server goes down, right? Where you have your stuff. What's your contingency plan do you have a backup? Does it automatically transfer over? Are you backing up in multiple places? It's interesting. We were talking about this and I said, I pay a little extra with our accounting software, so I get a backup emailed to me every day. And I remember somebody asked me, well, isn't that like overkill? Won't it just become back up? Well, I learned this the hard way when the accounting system went down and my data was lost for like a week. They had it. We'll get it. But I couldn't collect money, right? Because even though I was getting my payments in, I had no place to post it, right? So I couldn't keep my books current, right? But because I had the backup being sent to us, I was able to use the register, come back, and then by doing that, I was able then, once the systems came back up, to upload it back in, and everything was good.
Yeah, as you say that, I'm thinking to myself that we don't have any manual checks anymore because we do pay electronically. And if something like that was to happen, do we have checks to pay our vendors, right?
If you're asking me,
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
You do?
Of course.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have a whole stack, thousands and thousands of checks.
Well, no, that's important for people to know because a lot of transactions are, when it comes to money, you are doing digital transfers, right? And so, I know it's very old school to have checks and be able to print them, but that's actually something that we need to think about, not just us in general, most, the business owners, to be able to do and have, check laying out somewhere. Because what if, the what ifs are real. And cyber attacks do happen. And we have seen more than our fair share in here in the States where our internet, we have been attacked and we have been put out of commission. So what are some of those things that we can do as business owners? For example, the credit card. If the swiper isn't working, do you have a manual, carbon kind of thing that you can take to the bank so you can continue? Besides, no, it's so old school, but it's real. And it's not that old school because it was probably about 10 years ago, we were still using those.
Right. Well, and the thing is that, a lot of times people don't understand, this is why, we talk about it all the time with clients, right? You have your standard operating procedures in the perfect world. But the question now, when you're putting your standard operating procedures together, is to ask the question, what if this didn't work with the technology we need? So to your point, the old-fashioned credit card, I don't know what they call it, but all I know is it used to make this loud noise, right? And when you went through it, and then you would perforate it and you would deposit one time to the bank with your regular deposit, and you would keep one for your records, right? But even if you don't have that, do you have a safe way of taking data from customers so that you're not stopping the process, right? So we do some work with medical companies, right? In, offices. And, do they have a way of taking the insurance information down so that they can then process that for their customer without inconveniencing, or worse is saying, oh, we can't see it today because we don't have any systems.
It's funny. It's not only in business, it's in your household too. I've heard a lot of stories about the fires that break out and no, seriously. And paperwork is lost and burned. I bought actually this fireproof document holder that I have our passports, our birth certificates, our social security cards. Those are things that are not so easily duplicatable.
Yeah.
So, that's another avenue too. I mean, we really need to become, as an alternative, very manual because we are way too dependent upon the internet, the digital world. It's changing and we have to be aware of those things. And I was just thinking about that and I just had to bring it up. But what about the people that are actually, their business is online? What is the alternative solution for Shopify?
Oh boy. Well, if they don't have,
if they were to go down.
if they were to go down? That's an interesting question, right? Because they're doing an online business because more people are buying online, but they've eliminated the ability to do in-person brick and mortar type transactions. It's interesting. I'm working with a startup, as you know, and one of the things that we have already put in place, and that this really had nothing to do with this topic, but I'm thinking about it. Wow, we actually came up with a solution without thinking about it, is they're building, it was going to be an online transactional business, but we decided right off the bat that we're going to build a wholesale idea that it'll already be in locations that people can also purchase it from. And so they don't have to have the brick and mortar. They just have to have an outlet that allows them to deliver that, and then building the infrastructure around that you can take orders, you can work with your suppliers and everything else. And I think to your point, what's really important about that is everything that you do, you need to have an alternative way of doing it, right? So I'm working with a manufacturer. I just put my order through online. Okay, but is there another way to put an order in? Right?
Yeah.
And once you have that relationship, and so it's a great question to not only ask yourself, but it's also a really important question to ask your vendors. What do you do if this happens?
Yes,
right?
That's so true.
Do you have an alternative? Because, we're building a software, right? And one of the things I asked our technologists that we're working with is I said, after the Cloudflare happened, I said, well, what do you use? And he told us what we're using. And this is not stuff that I understand 100%. And so I'm not getting into that level of conversation. I said, but what would it take for us to be in multiple systems? How would you do that? And so he said, I've never been asked that question before. And so now he's going down the path of saying, how would I do that? Right? How do I build a backup in the cloud? Right? How easy is it? What would I do? And I'm sure it's not as complicated as I made it sound, but
if the technologists didn't even think about that for a moment. I mean, awareness it's incredible. Once you bring the awareness, people start thinking, okay, you know what? I really need to take a look at that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing today. We're just bringing awareness of how would you pivot on a moment's notice if all goes to hell in the handbasket.
Right. And that's why I'm saying you not only ask yourself, you have to ask your vendors, your contractors. If you have contractors, we have people in multiple states, right? So we're not tied to one part of the grid. We're not tied to one part of the internet. Now, I guess if it all goes down, we'll have to deal with that, right? That's a bigger issue, right? But at the end of the day, you have to put these things in place, and then you have to ask yourself the follow-up questions, the what ifs, right? And I think that's what's so important to this discussion is because, we've gotten so comfortable with the speed of things, right?
Yeah.
Now, back in the day when we were both in the mortgage industry, probably more so me than you because you're clearly not as old as I am, we used to take applications by hand.
I took applications by hand.
I was not suggesting that you didn't. I was just letting you know.
I remember typing the contracts.
Right. But my point is you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, do you have the forms that you could do it and yada, yada,
And
yada.
that's the thing, that we no longer have the ability to access those contracts manually.
Right.
Right. So what is the alternative? Do you build a library on your own of the forms that you need in your business to be able to be ready if all goes sideways?
Right. And I think that's the most important thing, what we're trying to get across today is, we can't come up with every scenario. We can't come up with everything, but it's your business, right? It's your business. You need to be able to ask yourself, what if, and then think through the processes every step of the way. What happens if? This is kind of a weird one, but if you have an electric car and the electricity goes out and you didn't charge it Do you have a backup plan?
I know. What would be the backup plan for that?
Well, probably a really happy Uber driver is what I'm guessing.
Well,
or a
no,
rental car.
I mean a generator.
Well, yes, but at the moment,
Yeah.
right? If you were dependent on your car, right, to get someplace and you couldn't charge it right away, or you don't have that, right? That's why there's products out there for, you brought up the home, right? That's why there's Generac, right? Generac is a backup plan that uses a different solution. Solar is another one. Now, I'm not in the energy process, so I'm talking again.
You don't have to be in the energy process to know these things.
Right.
I
My
mean,
point
and
is
that's the thing, that people think that they need to be experts in one specific thing. You have a brain. There is possibilities. ChatGPT will tell you, actually.
But if the internet goes down, you're not using ChatGPT.
Well, I understand, but if you are... Indeed. However, if you are putting contingency plans, you're not waiting until the moment to put a contingency plan. You should be actually researching what is it that I could do,
Right.
and ChatGPT can help you, because that seems to be the way these days.
That's a great point, Madeline.
Yeah, I know. I always have them.
Yes, you do. And
Yeah.
and that's why we love having you on the show all the time.
Without me, there's no show.
Okay, guys. So the whole point of this episode was to help you understand that even though you have a contingency plan, your contingency plan needs to have backup plans along with it to make sure that if something happens and multiple aspects of it happen, you have a way to continue growing your business, working with your clients, working with your ultimate customers, keep revenue coming in, paying the bills, all these wonderful things. But if you don't, then you're just sitting on the sidelines. And that risk is that you could have a competitor that's more prepared than you. And that means you lose a client.
That's right.
So until next time,
Let's get to work.